a seconder issue when I propose this, but I don't care. I don't need a seconder. My own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this can pick a number, get online, and kiss my ass.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services provided by other lawyers. I'm Harry Steele, backwoods Southern lawyer. Have my partner in crime here today with us, Mr. Paul Ripp. How you doing, Paul?
Real good on this somber day of 9/11.
It is. So let's talk a little bit about that. Where were you on September 11th, 2001?
I was on Southside Birmingham, about to go to Mountain Brook to do an interior job there, and came on the radio about the first plane hitting. And so there was 3 or 4 of us in the vehicle, and I said, hey, let's stop first place you can. And we were right by a sports bar. So we ran in there. They were watching something else, and we got them to turn the TVs on. By this time, it was like 20 people watching. You could have heard a pin drop, and we watched the second plane hit the building. And as soon as it hit the building, I just automatically said, we're at war. And everybody looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, we're at war. That's what this is about. This is an act of war. And sure enough, we know now that it was. Over 3,000, how many was it? Over 3,000, couple hundred or something like that were killed.
Yes, sir. Well,
and what about the statistics that you're about to go into? Over 3,000 were killed during 9/11. However, today we are losing over 6,000 people every single week to COVID, and yet there's still people that believe that this is hype or fake or something like that. So, and where are we now, Harry?
COVID-19 numbers, 28,268,970 confirmed global cases with now this is strange, 911,282 deaths globally. In the U.S., 6,417,186 cases with 192,381 deaths.
Headed to 200,000 people. This is 5 times worse than the flu, people. Get your flu shot.
So, Alabama numbers, 136,703 total cases statewide with 2,333 deaths. Does that sound a little lowball to you?
It is, but again, Alabama's one of the ones today on the news that was in a downward trend. And,
that's right.
And I contribute all of that to density. These outbreaks we're seeing that are huge are in very populated areas.
So we had 776 cases yesterday
in
Alabama.
Well,
we were rocking along at 1,000 for a long time there.
That's still nothing to shake a stick at, I tell you.
Certainly not. Well, Paul, I wanted to, while we're on 9/11, I do want to, I want to show you something because I was actually watching the television at this point in time. Do you remember this? We were all sitting there watching the first tower burn. And
I was just like standing there pretty much looking out the window. I didn't see what caused it or if there was an impact.
So you have no idea where
another plane just hit. Oh my God, another plane has just hit. It hit another building. Flew right into the middle of it. Explosion. Right in the middle of the building.
This one into the east tower.
Yes. Right in the.
Do you remember how pretty that day was?
It was just
crystal clear.
A cloud in the sky.
Yep.
And watching that plane go into that building, you had like 2 or 3 seconds there, it felt like, before the plane hit the building, and you were, optically, the way you're looking at it, you're praying that it's going to go back behind hit, rather than hit, but straight into the building.
And then it was the tower that was hit second that collapsed first. Do you remember that?
I can't remember the sequence, but
I do. I remember. I watched it. I had to go pick the mayor's secretary. I was working in Gulf Shores at the time. I had to go pick the mayor's secretary up. She was getting her car worked on in Foley, and we were coming over the bridge onto the island, and we heard it on NPR that a plane had hit one of the towers. We got back. The conference room next to my office was set up for hurricanes, right? So we had all these televisions, so we sat up in there and watched it. And of course, we were at war. As far as I'm concerned,
there were, a lot of people don't know this or realize this, but there were literally thousands of young men that signed up to go into the military immediately after the 9/11, because of 9/11.
True.
Went on to serve in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Well, Paul, I want to talk to you about a different story.
All right.
And I hate Rain's in here. So are you aware that the president is being sued related to a claim that he had raped a woman, essentially?
Yeah, this goes back quite some time.
Right. And anyway, this is just a little PBS broadcast. Let's watch it real quick.
To end the U.S. government as the defendant instead of Mr. Trump. That would mean the federal government, rather than the president, would be on the hook to pay any financial damages the president's accuser might be awarded. For his part, President Trump has repeatedly denied Carroll's allegations.
It's a total false accusation, and I don't know anything about her.
But Carroll says the president's words harmed her reputation and career, and so she sued for defamation.
So please describe to me a scenario where you could ever have imagined that the Justice Department would intervene in a defamation lawsuit and the federal government would stand in the shoes of a private individual, something that he did before he was president years ago. Of course, I guess he defamed her after he was president, is the theory.
Nothing would surprise me. I've seen Fairhope spend its money on councilmen that were responsible and finance them. So, it doesn't surprise me. Let's see, the Epstein trial, if anybody watches the Epstein movies on Netflix, you'll see in the very end how corrupt that ended up, and the charges that he was allowed just to walk out on when they knew that he was abusing these girls for years and years right there in West Palm Beach, not in Palm Beach, not West Palm, but in Palm Beach. But
so, Paul, I want to talk about a Lagniappe article, and I know I'm jumping ahead of you.
That's all right.
A potentially life-threatening situation. Suspect in Bass Pro Shop shooting arrested on multiple charges. So, do you mind covering that for us, and I'll chime in at the opportune time?
Well, I know that the guy, Robert Smith, 38, from Grove Hill, as I understand, he was really driving through the area, and he's accused of discharging at least 30 rounds into the building. I think the police should be commended on the fact that he was taken into custody after he shot with a stun gun and wasn't killed, because certainly they would have had to restrain themselves with him firing off that much ammunition and everything. But it's, again, the police are involved with having to deal with someone with mental issues, and that shouldn't be the police's responsibility. But I commend the police for being able to end the situation, and no one got harmed at all, and accusing especially the person that started out with it too.
Okay, got a video for you. You ready?
Yeah.
Up at the front entrance instead of the side of the building. Tragedy avoided in Spanish Fort.
It certainly appears that his intent yesterday was to commit a mass shooting.
Startling.
Really?
His intention was a mass shooting. He'd have gone in
What the
front
hell?
door.
Where's the mass shooting?
He'd have gone in the front door.
Okay, so that's number one. Now, see where everybody's positioned.
Right.
So everybody's got a headshot on this guy.
Right.
AR with a reflex sight on it, right?
Right. Well, in the position that they are, they better not shoot.
Well,
They'll
they
shoot
hit each other.
New
potentially.
video shows the seconds.
So obviously he doesn't have his weapon raised. Looks to me like some guy walking around, disoriented, doesn't know where he is or whatever.
Officers come face to face with the accused gunman, 38-year-old Robert Smith, suspected of firing dozens
See
of
his
shots
gun
at
just
the
swinging?
Bass Pro.
Yeah.
Well, you get the
but
gist.
people have been shot and killed for a lot less than that.
Well, sure. So the other thing that I wanted to look at is another perspective on this case. Okay.
All right. I wonder why they don't have those beanbag shotguns.
Do what now?
I said it's a wonder they don't have those beanbag shotguns. That would have been a great incident where to use it.
I agree.
Owned. All of the men in this community have weapons. We all hunt, our kids hunt. It's a normal thing.
But what wasn't normal was the way the family says Robert was acting lately. They say he was dealing with the loss of his mother and was caring for his elderly father.
He started acting a little different maybe a week or so ago. And I talked with him 2 or 3 days ago. And he wasn't acting just like himself. I remember telling him, I said, "Cuz, take it easy, take it easy. It's gonna be all right." And he said to me, he said, "I love y'all, but people just don't understand."
A neighbor also noticed, saying Robert had been riding around the neighborhood on a four-wheeler, carrying one of his guns.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? A guy in crisis or the most dangerous individual? And if he intended, he intended to commit a mass shooting. Let me tell you something. That 300 blackout AR he had on there is Korea coded. This is a gun guy. He's a hunter. And if he wanted to kill a bunch of people, drive right on down to the overpass and just start picking them off the Bayway.
I think
he shot up a building, and of course, the feds are talking about charging him with a bunch of stuff too, because we need to make sure this guy never sees the light of day. I mean, I know what he did was extremely egregious, but come on. Do you know what the sheriff of? And I'll find the video and I'll throw it up on the end of this. But the sheriff of his county knows him. Says what finest families he knows. Be sure to bury him. Make sure he never sees the light of day again. All right, Paul, give me another article, man.
He'll end up getting out on the mental issue that he began to get in there on. Well, Lanyap, last week we talked about the long road to justice. Former House Speaker to report to jail after court denies his rehearing. This is by Jason Johnson. This was last week. And they expected that Mr. Hubbard would have, within the next 2 weeks, it means he's got one more week before he goes to jail. This will be and this started, ladies and gentlemen, in 2014. In 2010, Mr. Hubbard was the architect of some of the ethics laws. 2014, he was indicted for violating the same ethics laws. And here we are in 2020, and he is finally going to go to jail. So we'll have to have a special little broadcast for Mr. Hubbard when he goes to jail. If he was from Baldwin County, he'd have never gone to jail.
All right,
they don't lock people up down there.
I want to talk about everybody loves a good lawyer story.
Yeah.
So this lawyer in Tennessee was on the most wanted list, kills himself in Alabama when confronted by police. Lawyer, 49 years old, Murfreesboro, wanted on charges of aggravated rape and statutory rape involving a babysitter. He was placed on TBI's most wanted list, and when confronted by officers, he produced a weapon and shot himself right down here in Mobile.
Huh. Wonder why he drove all the way down here to do it.
Might have been looking for you.
I mean, yeah, really.
All right, give me another Lagniappe article, man.
Well, in the zone, I saw you were looking at that too. You probably
yeah,
know
well, I got a little
more.
zoning background, don't I?
Correct. And that's, Baldwin County has 18 zone planning districts where land uses are regulated, but the majority of the county remains unzoned. And according to legislative acts, if you want to be in a zoned area, you have to have 10% of the population in that area to be put on a ballot. In Point Clear and Magnolia Springs are both two more additions to these districts.
Okay, so the two things that I think are, one of them's over here on one side of Foley, one's on the other, and then there's another one over here around Weeks Bay somewhere. But hell, I thought this whole thing right here was going to be in that, what do you call it? Barnwell District.
Barnwell Historic District. Is that what they were going to call it?
Well, all it is a zoning exclusion district. So
Right.
you can just build whatever the heck you want. Anyway, I'm surprised that our camera worked this well. It's all backwards and stuff, but hey. So, you understand, I mean, do we want to go in the process and all this? So to create a zoning district, you have to petition the county commission with 10% of the electorate in that zoning district, and that gets certified by the probate judge, and then it's put on the ballot for those people to vote on the next time there's an election.
Right.
So yeah, there's two zones, 18 and 27, outside of Foley. East side of Foley is the smaller one, the west side of Foley, and then the one over there in Point Clear. The petition forms were just submitted August 17th for Planning District 19.
So these would be on the November election.
Maybe they have to have an election within 90 days.
I believe
what
that's
the
what
law
they're.
says.
I believe that's what they're shooting for, is the November, because after then, the next thing we have is like a midterm election. That's it.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Well, people on the Eastern Shore, don't forget, city of Daphne. You got Robin Lejeune, who secured 44.2% of the vote, running against Steve Carey. Steve Carey is the Catalyst candidate. So us being traditionally for the non-Catalyst candidate, we're pulling for Robin Lejeune.
And he's got the business across the street from me, and he's one of the very few places where you can buy fresh seafood anymore.
That's right. They stopped down in Gulf Shores in a couple of places. And then in Spanish Fort, you have Mike Slappin McMillan running against Rebecca Cornelius. And Mr. McMillan, in my opinion, should have had to leave office immediately after slapping the magistrate on camera. And, that we got the Paula Donardi case.
High-stepping turkeys, and you know what to say about a high-stepper.
In Fairhope. And it amazes me that in Baldwin County, we have no women's groups, no Chamber of Commerce, no men's groups. Nobody's speaking up about these two separate incidences where women have been assaulted. No one's saying a word.
And at some point, you just wonder when her husband's going to go up there and slap the shit out of him.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be fair play in my book. Put me on that jury. So you want to talk about Fairhope? Any runoffs there?
No, that's pretty much secure. That's a total straight ticket Catalyst. People in Fairhope, hang on. It's going to be an interesting 4 years, and I think you're going to see it come right out of the box very quick. Some of the things that we've been able to hold back and turn down, development and growth is being totally embraced by the city now.
So get this, you want to talk about growth?
Yeah.
So, I work for Gulf Shores, right?
Correct.
And one of the things I did was I was quasi staff to their airport authority.
Mm-hmm.
And so all the improvements out there, instrument landing system, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's put it this way. There's money all over the place just laying around because every time they do a transportation enhancement plan, they set aside a certain percentage for commercial aviation, right?
Right.
Nobody ever bites. I mean, hell, Bay Minette's got an airport where you can land a damn 737. What the hell do we need that for? So anyway, Jack Edwards Airport, this is the article by Gabe Tynes, Upward Bound, Jack Edwards Airport to build tower, introducing passenger service. So this is $6.1 million of federal money. The city of Gulf Shores Airport Authority will match it with $600,000. Jack Edwards Airport is the second busiest airport in the state of Alabama behind Birmingham Shuttlesworth.
Good heavens. That is unreal.
So special thanks to bringing home the bacon, Senator Richard Shelby, for eventually securing a 5-year funding bill with a provision for the new tower, specifically line item for Baldwin County Jack Edwards Airport. Right. He also announced that they had received a letter of intent from Elite Airways to eventually introduce a passenger service. So they're going to go build this tower down at this little municipal airport. And of course, they're going to have to buy a bunch of land to do it too, because we don't own enough land around there, you know? Anyway, the CEO of Elite Airways said that the carrier operates a charter service as well as a regular scheduled routes primarily on the East Coast. And we are very proud to be able to announce that we'll have some upcoming air service here, and we'll be working on the destination now with Scott, who's the airport authority manager, and his team. Or maybe he's the guy that runs it for the FBO.
Well, those of you in Fairhope, do not be surprised if you do not see Elite landing in Fairhope, because there's been a push for commercial air to come in there. Of course, it's not been public. It's been behind the scenes, but all of you that bought land in subdivisions around the airport might find yourself at a commercial airport here very soon. So we'll see.
All right. I want to, while we're talking about public input, okay?
All right.
Last week, after we did our podcast, the Alabama Supreme Court ruled that a meeting between the Public Service Commission,
I saw that,
and Alabama Power Company, when discussing rate increases, those are not public meetings. And the lady who was running against Twinkle, who was trying to live stream the damn thing on Facebook, they threw her out like a damn Jim Carrey movie.
Right.
And told her she couldn't record, so she sued them. Now, the public, for the people who don't know, in certain situations, we cannot possibly hope to ask a corporation to come out here and do something like Alabama Power Company did, which is provide something like electricity, right? So we need some kind of regulatory board to make sure they're not gouging the people, because they have exclusivity, right?
Right.
They're the only game in town. So the Public Service Commission, their primary responsibility is to control the rates, right?
Looking after your interest.
So how in the world can a meeting about a rate increase not be a public meeting? That's what the Alabama Supreme Court said.
Well, that's kind of like
and Paul, you could just imagine the many things as an attorney that I would love to say about that, but for fear of running afoul of the rules of professional responsibility, I'm keeping my mouth shut.
Well, I don't need to,
because it boils my blood when I think about stuff like this going on.
Right. Well, something that's kind of related to it is the fact that Baldwin County just approved $661,000 for cameras
that we'll never see
for vehicles and officers, but yet the sheriff's department decides what you can see and what you can't see, and that is tax dollars. That is going to be challenged in court, folks. You watch and see, that will be challenged in court.
So speaking of claims,
Yeah.
I called and spoke to the city administrator of Bay Minette this week about my complaint against the police chief. You know, when he screamed at me and cursed me out, put his
Right.
hand on his damn firearm, all that stuff.
Right.
Well, guess who investigated it?
I would imagine himself.
She did. The accountant went over there and
accountant?
investigated.
The accountant
And
did?
she interviewed everybody, and he never raised his voice, nor did he use profanity, nor was I caught on any of the cameras, either audio or video of me or the chief or any damn thing else that happened that day.
So it's like the Donardi case and slapping Mike.
Well,
It
you're just
didn't
being led
happen.
to believe that I would risk my reputation by making this claim, knowing that everything that happened, I assumed was on camera, Paul. I mean, I'm standing between between the damn jail and the front door of the Bay Minette Police Department. You telling me I wasn't on video?
It was.
Bull crap. Well, they're saying it's not, and they don't find my allegations credible, and that's all that's going to happen.
I guess the camera's on only when they want it on.
Well, and that's I don't know if you remember the Malcolm Steves case that we talked about, but you know, Mr. Steves built his dream home down there on Patrick's Landing Road.
Yeah.
And he was the director of malls for about 30 years. He was on the Red Cross board, you know, the kind of guy that don't get pulled over in Mobile County. Well, he moves over here to Baldwin County and gets ordered out of the car, cuffed and stuff, roughed up, all this. And he wants his day in court, right? So we get to court, no camera, no nothing.
It all
And when
disappeared.
I said, well, you know, this seems like something that, you know, anytime there's something that helped my client, it disappears, Judge. You know what the judge said?
What?
Mr. Steele, you want to be very careful the allegations you make against law enforcement in my courtroom. And I was like, Judge, that's my job. That's the only reason I'm here, is to be critical of what law enforcement did to my client. And he found him guilty after all that. Anyway, Mr. Steve sold his shit and moved to Birmingham, Alabama, and said he'd love to come down and talk to us on the podcast sometime.
Well,
and that I was free to talk about his case.
Believe it or not, we're beginning to hear more and more people that are moving out of the area that have been here and foresee the traffic and congestion and lack of quality of life is beginning to go down pretty quick too, especially with
so we keep wondering
embracing growth.
We keep wondering when the pile of stench is going to be high enough to be smelled in DC, or at least over at the White Collar Crimes Division in Mobile. And it looks like it's got to be billions of dollars. So the heat is on. Another Lagniappe article by Gabe Tynes, federal, a local Baldwin County appraiser has come to the attention of the federal government. Do you know what they were doing, Paul?
Yep. That is.
So these little conservation easement syndicates,
correct.
They go in and they say, oh, we're going to get a conservation easement. And you get a big tax write-off for the property.
Right.
So this guy allegedly was inflating those numbers, and that the federal government got screwed out of a couple $1 billion based on his appraisals.
Right. He's from, this is Claude Clark. This was covered in another article by Lagniappe. I hope Lagniappe is going to make this one of their series. Gabe wrote about this first, August 28th. Special master appointed to federal conservation easement syndicate case. And then the one you're referring to is the heat is on. And this is an investigation spearheaded by the Finance Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, Republican Iowa, and ranking member Ron Wyden of Democrat Oregon. Beginning last year, the committee reviewed hundreds of thousands of pages of documents, including some acquired through the issuance of subpoenas. Now, Clark's name appears, now this is a federal finance committee, and Mr. Clark out of Magnolia Springs appears 187 times in the report.
All right, so let me give you an example. A 269-acre parcel in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, purchased for $3.7 million by 80 investors in 2015, eventually created over $43 million worth of tax deductions.
Right, right.
Hell, I could have done that appraisal.
If the syndicates, these conservation easement transactions continue the same way that they are, they risk not only depriving the government of billions of dollars of revenue, but it also degrades the general population's faith in the system. And the false appraisals, what they do is they appraise it in such a manner as to the tax deduction on it, like Harry is saying, and that one, the tax deduction was something like 43 million. In the locally Black Bear Enterprises, they started out with a valuation a before valuation of $2,764 an acre, and by the time they got through, the acreage price was $289,000, which resulted in a $1.3 million deduction from the IRS. Now, you know, if you're going to have a scam and you want to cheat somebody, you would think that the last one that you wanted to cheat was the IRS. So I think
so. You know what you do when you got big balls and you get sued by the federal government? You file a counterclaim and say, y'all disclose my private tax information.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's his answer.
Yeah. But this is a very, very interesting case. People in Baldwin County should follow this. It's this affects a lot of different properties in the area, and now it has expanded to about a 4 or 5 state area. And like I said, you know, this is an individual from Magnolia Springs, and now he is 187 times mentioned in this report. If I was him, I would be a little worried about where I was going to spend next year.
All right, I'm going to flip it on you a little bit, okay?
All right.
While we're talking about valuations of conservation easements,
right?
There's an article by Gabe Tynes, Widening the Scope. Weeks Bay Foundation becomes the South Alabama Land Trust, or SALT. Isn't that cute, Paul?
Right, right, right.
So why don't you, I'm sure you know a lot more about this because of the Fairhope Triangle and all that, the attempted acquisitions of that. But why don't you give us a little once over? How long? So it's my understanding the Weeks Bay Foundation was founded in 1990.
Correct. Correct.
And they
protected more than, go ahead,
9,500 acres or something. But then they gave a bunch of it away to Forever Wild down there at Weeks Bay, right? Recently.
Right.
So now that they're running out of land to protect, they're changing their name and increasing their scope is what it looks to me like.
Well, we just talked about appraising land for, conservation easements and everything. So now Weeks Bay Foundation, which have been around a good long time, like you said, from 1990, is taken over by South Alabama Land Trust. I immediately become suspicious as to what's going on here. We do know that Weeks Bay Foundation has made 3 separate attempts in working to take over the Triangle property, and the Triangle property in Fairhope would be not what South Alabama Land Trust, when you look at their mission statement and everything else, this Triangle piece of property doesn't fit in. So we'll have to see. We have a new mayor there, so we'll have to find out what's going on. But I am going to tell you right now, I am pretty sure a couple of interesting things as the board of the South Alabama Land Trust.
We'll throw the board members up right here in just a second.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of them is Mr. Scott Boone's wife. Mr. Boone is the one who heads up Catalyst. And then Diana Brewer, who headed up a couple of times of trying to get the Triangle, a former councilman, was behind that. So, and then when you start talking about the Triangle piece of property over there, you got 2 councilmen that live right there by it too. So there's and this is a political issue. This is taxpayer money that ended up paying $11.25 million for the property. So I'm going to predict that South Alabama Land Trust is going to make a run for that piece of property, that triangle piece of property. And I hope the people of Fairhope wake up more than they did on election day, because they'll be losing a piece of property that's worth about $20 million.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about a national issue, but and I say it's a non-issue. The state of Alabama has for years had absentee ballots, and we've had a pretty dang good track record with them. Don't know of any elections being overturned or a terrible amount of fraud. But of course, President Trump's been just raising Cain about it, and people are hacked off with our Secretary of State here in Alabama, because he's saying, man, ain't nothing to this. There's just more people going to utilize it. We've got a pretty good system here. Did you read the article? And
I did. And I'm a fan of John Merrill. I think he does a very, very good job. So I hope people, aren't biting on that apple that mailed-in voting doesn't work, because they've been doing it forever. Some states, I can't recall the 2 or 3 states, but there's 2 or 3 states they've been doing that for years. All
right, so let's switch gears one more time. Private prisons in Alabama. We talked about it last time. The governor has identified 3 sites. One of them is right across the line here in Escambia County. How many beds? Did you catch that?
I didn't catch
how many thousands of beds?
I didn't catch the total for the 3 prisons.
So just follow me here.
Proposed prisons.
$68 million a year in lease payments to these 3 companies that build the prisons. Now, we still have to staff them and run them, right?
Right.
So $2.6 billion over 30 years. That's insane.
Totally insane.
Okay, so while we're talking about this, I know I'm pulling a fast one on you, but I did not want you to have any foresight about it. But this is the kind of SHIT going on in our prison systems right now, okay?
His whole back got slashed.
Tell Ryan, tell me if I don't send the money, that he's going to stab him right then.
2018 was a trying year for Jeff Rust and his daughter Harmony. Financially, emotionally, they said they were constantly in fear for Ryan's life and their own.
Anytime the phone rang in the middle of the night, we'd jump out of bed like we were electrocuted.
Sometimes we get 20 calls a day.
From cell phones, inmates aren't supposed to be able to get anywhere near. In a statement, the Alabama Department of Corrections says, correctional leaders across the country know that the presence of cell phones within correctional facilities.
Now, who do you think's taking those cell phones in there, Paul?
Let's see. Who goes to work there every day?
This is one of the most, if not the most, dangerous threats we face. Our facilities are dilapidated, contain blind spots, and are porous in nature, so we simply cannot always effectively surveil every area of each prison.
So who the hell do you think's in charge of these prisons? Prison gangs?
No.
Okay, so keep listening to the story.
The introduction of cell phones started years ago and has exacerbated and multiplied the impact of a variety of issues, such as extortion and abuse.
Ask for money or explain what's going on.
Jeff and Harmony continuing to pay up, hoping to endure until Ryan was eligible for parole in 2019.
I had sent MoneyGram so many times. To so many different people that MoneyGram blocked me.
They say they tried to contact prison officials, but their concerns consistently fell on deaf ears. The DOC says they have no formal complaints on record, and they don't tolerate extortion.
Except there's no record of it.
Well,
are you shitting me?
Listen, I just talked to somebody the other day that is in prison and life without parole. We'll get into that case much later. He told me that a $50 telephone taken in and sold to a prisoner is $800.
Well, that's a little supplement because we pay these people a pittance to go to work in the most dangerous place in the world.
So
listen to this.
Then came December 21st of 2018.
And when I got the call, the video.
With the memories still raw, the refs aren't buying the prison system statement that it was a suicide.
About 8, 9 more months you've been out of there.
Not likely he committed suicide if he only had 8 or 9 months to go.
Well, that's when you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, Paul, and the walls start closing in, and you just got to end it because you're about to get out of jail.
Well, I just recently heard of a person I was advocating for in Foley that committed suicide over stress, and so I guess it's hard to tell.
Could have just shot up a Bass Pro Shop and he'd have died languishing in prison. All right, Paul, I got another one for you, buddy.
We mentioned the McAfee thing, didn't we?
Well, we're going to watch the trailer, though.
All right.
Showtime, please don't strike us, because, Paul, weren't you an executive producer or some shit on this movie?
I wasn't an executive producer. I did help put it all together.
So, Paul, I got to ask you.
Yeah.
Did your weird shit-o-meter hit about 1 million when you met this guy? I mean, just absolutely the...
Actually, I was living in Belize at the time, and I had been down there for so long that we'd seen people like McAfee come by before. A lot of money, just throwing it out.
Yeah, but
everywhere.
he's driving around with armed guys hanging off the side of his
that
SUV like he was the president driving.
The thing that McAfee did in Belize that he brought in was armed guards guarding him, and also the cattle prods, things like that guards didn't have, police didn't have. And
the first thing he did was he gave a boat and a bunch of equipment to the local police.
Right.
All right. So let's watch the trailer.
I'm John McAfee. I'm the guy that was accused of murdering police and ran into Guatemala. The FBI is going to be looking for me if you don't call him, sir. The FBI?
When John came up with antiviral software, 90% of the people weren't even aware of viruses.
By 1993, McAfee controlled 67% of the desktop antivirus market.
When he first came into the country, he was very friendly.
He donated a considerable amount of equipment to police.
If you're giving donations to the police, are there some motives behind that?
He was getting paranoid. I started seeing more and more security people.
He had guys with criminal records, give them gun.
I think he really wanted to create a cult or a mystique like Colonel Kurtz. And here he is in the heart of darkness.
How many girlfriends did he have?
At least 5 or 6 girls.
I do have teenage girlfriends, and many at a time.
He would talk about his hitmen, how he could have people hurt or killed. And he brought me 2 pills and a glass of orange juice. And
I don't know if I'd take 2 pills and a glass of orange juice for my fiance this day and time, much less John McAfee. Anyway.
I woke up dizzy and he was standing over me naked. He went from 0 to crazy in like 2 seconds.
David broke into John's home and stole stuff.
So John asked me if I could bring 3 guys up here, slap him up, teach him a little respect.
Before torture, they knife cut him up, tears of him in the mouth and the face.
And then he died.
John's dogs ran on the beach, and they were really ferocious. Greg Fall had it with those dogs and said, I'm going to poison those dogs. Mr. Fall was found dead. He had been executed.
I still can't believe it.
John calls me and says, I need you to get me out of the country alive. We just put him on a boat and dump him in land in Guatemala.
I've been running through jungles and rivers and oceans.
Now he's back in the United States. It was as if it hadn't happened. He goes from running away from something to now running for President of the United States.
I don't see how he can lose. I'm serious.
He had apparently gotten away with possible murder and rape, all seemingly without consequence.
He's legitimized himself again.
And I see him regaining that reputation.
Please turn your cameras off.
And he's dangerous.
You want to watch a bizarre movie, watch that. Recently, I was contacted by attorneys that there's a wrongful death lawsuit, which I recommended that they file years ago. And there now has been rendered a judgment on that lawsuit of $25 million. So Mr. McAfee got thrown in prison not just recently in the Dominican Republic for a few days, again, carrying weapons and guns. And now he's ended up in England, in London, and I will guarantee you it will not take him long before he does something sensational in London to bring attention to himself, because he is that much of a narcissist. So any of you have been following that for years, that's an ongoing story for sure. But, you know, getting back to the prison reform, Harry, there's a lot of good articles on this. Governor Ivey's got her plan, but her plan seems to be a lot more in secret. The public doesn't know what's going on. Kyle Whitmire in Birmingham has been writing about it. When you look at the figures, it's like you were pointing out, what kind of money are we talking about here? This is tax money, folks.
Going to private individuals, because
Correct.
they're claiming the state of Alabama can't go borrow enough money to build their own prison.
And
that is a lie.
And one of the dangers here is that Governor Ivey has taken it upon herself to try to resolve this issue without a special session. And we don't know that.
Don't we have a legislature?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We don't know that the legislature might come back and say, well, you know what, Governor Ivey, we don't like what you did. And so then those in charge of the prison say, well, we're going to have to let everybody out until we decide what we're going to do here. So I don't know where this is going. I mean, I really don't. But taxpayers, get ready. This is something that you are going to be paying for, and hardly anyone is paying attention to with what's going on. Now, the last 4 or 5 governors have all been faced with this problem, and no one did anything. But of the last 6 governors, 3 of them went to jail. So, you know, where are we now? We're right back with the same problem again with the jails. And then you look, it comes all the way down to county, because here in Baldwin County, they're talking about a 240-bed jail to be built right in the center of Bay Minette, which boggles my mind. Why would you put it there when you got all this land around it? But anyway.
I do need to point out something technical in the law.
Yeah.
And because of my background as a county administrator, the jail has to be can only be so far from the courthouse. And as a practical matter, you want it pretty close because of all your criminal activity. You know, when we built the jail and judicial building when I up in Etowah County, there's a passageway underground, so you can take the prisoners out of the jail, take them underground in this tunnel, and they go up in a secured elevator and they're holding cells to take them in and out of the courtroom.
So this is, you're talking about this as a mandatory, or?
No. I'm just saying.
That's why.
I'm saying that's why.
Practical.
From a practical perspective, you wouldn't want to be transporting prisoners 20 miles for an arraignment hearing.
Yeah.
And especially in a DC case where, you know, everybody gets a DC case number, everybody gets a bail hearing. And right now they're using a lot of technology like this, and I think that's going to stick. Well, and I tell you something else, they're going to continue to control the entrances to these buildings with cameras and thermal crap and everything else. It's here to stay.
Yeah, but the cameras only work when they want them to work, Harry.
Yeah, per normal. And I hate Rains in here. We'll get him back on with us next week.
All right, that's pretty much what I got. again, I encourage people to get a lanyap, because if you're not reading the lanyap and you're not listening to us, you're not getting much of anything. And that's the problem. We are completely disjointed as far as communities go as to what is really going on in their communities. Very, very, very few people understand that.
Or care to.
Yeah, and
peel
so
back.
major decisions are being made in your community with no public participation, and that's on the fault of the public, not the politicians. I mean, you elected them. Once you elect them, you got to make them do their job. That's about all I got, Harry, for today.
Well,
Number 53.
So I am gonna share this real quick, and I know that we didn't discuss it, but command decision. If anybody's looking for the prettiest house in Alabama, mine is for sale. Obviously, when I had a run in with the chief of police and I did not win this election, somebody had to go, right? And so we're going. Anyway, it's our dream home, built in my hometown. And
somebody would be quite lucky, because it is done very, very, very well.
Yep, she did a good job.
Just turnkey. You wouldn't have to do a thing in this house, not paint, nothing. Just move in.
Yep. So give Mark Fernette a call at Delta Realty. Free plug for him. And yeah.
Use my name and I get 5%.
That's right. Paul Rip. I'm pretty sure he's got a license and everything.
Oh yeah, they'd love to get me on selling real estate without a license.
So yeah, I heard the mayor loud and clear. We're getting the heck out of town.
Yeah. Let me tell you, to our listeners too, you listen to Harry and I, particularly myself, over the years, talk about how absolutely corrupt everything is from Montgomery down. And sometimes people, they get tired of listening to us and say, oh, it couldn't be that bad. It couldn't be that bad. Well, there's a new book out. It's called Shadow Government, Southern Style.
I bought a second copy at Page and Palette on Wednesday. Right. So I know they have them.
And this is by Tommy Gallion. There is a Gallion, Alabama. I'm quite sure that's named after his family. Mr. Gallion is an attorney and has quite a reputation himself. He's the one that wrote the book. But if you want to really delve in and see just how corrupt things are, just how corrupt some of our past governors have been, I encourage you to read this book. It will give you a totally different
insight. And if you have an insurable interest in this man in any way, please run out and buy life insurance. Because
right. I mean, he has really, the thing that amazes me about this book is that I can't believe everybody in Alabama is not reading about it or discussing it, or it's on the news, and I hadn't seen anybody cover it at all yet. Now, this is brand new. This is out this year, 2020. But again, it's Shadow Government, Southern Style by Tommy Gallion.
The third.
And I think you will be shocked at what you read.
So one more thing on COVID. The University of Alabama, did they say they had, so 20,000 students came back on campus. 2,000 of them have tested positive for COVID-19. Might need to talk to Walt again.
Right.
What the hell's going on up there?
Well, that's quite a challenge. I mean, you're a mayor of a city that's got a major college like that in there, and you're trying to relate to these kids that are going to school, and half of them are going there to party. So, I don't know what the answer is going to be unless everybody just sits down and complies. I think it was Spring Hill College that I thought did a real good job. They had a jump in numbers, like, don't take me on record for this, but like 3 to 15. So what they did was isolate those people and then test everybody twice, and they brought it right back down again almost immediately. And it just makes you wonder if a small college campus like Spring Hill can do that. Why can't we do that in these different towns and municipalities? The testing is the answer. So I guess we're just going to have to wait until someone comes up with a good testing program.
And who's that going to be?
I wouldn't venture to say at this point, but I can tell you that when you look at a small country like Vietnam, and they were able to contain it and control it and not lose one single life, and everybody in the country complied with wearing a mask, and that's how they did it. I don't know. I don't see why we can't understand that.
So
and
did you...
the one thing that gets me, though, Harry, is when you hear people locally say something like, it's a hoax. You know, this is made up for some reason. This is worldwide, folks. This isn't just Alabama or the United States. And also, you got to realize this is the first time in my lifetime that I ever lived in the United States. And you could not go to Mexico, you cannot go to Canada, and you cannot go to Europe. Think about that.
We're the stinky kids in class.
Yeah, yeah. We're non-compliant.
I was gonna save this for Reigns,
all right,
but you got to deal with it.
Okay.
Okay. So, did you know the Kansas City Chiefs fans booed last night during the moment of unity?
I saw that.
Okay.
That. That's
so. Well, let me say what I have to say about it.
All right.
I know there are a lot of people out there who are upset with Nick Saban for the position that he took doing the march and all that last week, and we really didn't get into it too much. But the idea that the entire team did not take the field until after the national anthem was played. The Houston Texans did that.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I don't know how you feel about it, but that just hacks me off bad, really bad, that the whole team would just stay in the locker room for that. I don't understand it.
I don't either.
I do not understand it. All of the freedoms you're afforded in this country, even to be a jackass and stay in the locker room. But you know what? We're not paying you to be a jackass. We're paying you to play football. Please, can we play some football and get it? And, go social justice warrior after the game. Do whatever you want to do on your time. But when I'm trying to sit there and watch a football game and I have to watch all this ridiculous pageantry to make sure everybody knows we're all outraged and we're all on your side and all that stuff. Yep. Let's play some football. Enough said?
Enough said.
Okay. I figured as much. All right. So, the weekend, what you got going on?
Just a little bit of work around the house, I guess, and maybe go to the beach.
Ooh, that sounds like a good idea. Well, if you can stay socially distanced, go have a good time. Stay outside, stay away from people, wear your mask, and keep your powder dry. We'll see y'all next time.
It's 8:52 here in New York. I'm Bryant Gumbel. We understand that there has been a plane crash on the southern tip of Manhattan. You're looking at the World Trade Center. We understand that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't know anything more than that. We don't know if it was a commercial aircraft. We don't know if it was a private aircraft. We have no idea how many were on board or what the extent of the injuries are right now. We have, I understand, an eyewitness on the phone right now. Sir, good morning. This is Bryant Gumbel. Could you give us your name?
Yeah, my name is Stuart.
Stuart, where are you right now?
I'm working at a restaurant in Soho.
All right, so tell us what you saw, if you would.
I was waiting at a table and I literally saw it seemed to be like a small plane. I just heard a couple noises. It looked like it bounced off the building, and then I just saw a huge ball of fire on top. And then the smoke seemed to simmer down. And it just, a lot of smoke was coming out, and that's pretty much the extent of what I saw.
Can you tell us about the scene down there right now?
Right now, people are just on the street looking at the building. The building, there's just a lot of smoke. It's not too crazy down where I am.
How far away from the World Trade Center specifically are you?
I'm actually on Thompson Street North. I'm not too far.
It's 8:54 right now, Stuart. Can you tell me when this happened exactly?
I would have to say about 10 minutes ago.
Were you looking up as the plane approached the building, or did it only catch your attention after it crashed into the World Trade Center?
I heard like a sort of a crashing sound, but I looked up quick enough to actually see something go into the building, but everything happened so fast I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at.
So there's no way you can know whether or not the plane seemed to be in trouble before it crashed into the building?
Oh, no, I couldn't tell.
It's hard for us to tell from the picture we're seeing just how far down from the top that plane crashed. Have you any better eyesight to it from your vantage point?
Not really. All I know is it definitely wasn't the top of the building, because that seems to be intact from what I saw.
Obviously, the timing of this is important. It comes before 9 o'clock. Perhaps, and we say that in hopeful fashion, perhaps not everybody was at work, because if that building was in fact crowded with workers, we're looking at probably some casualties and injuries of considerable proportions. But right now there's no way of telling that. We're on the line with another eyewitness. Sir, this is Bryant Gumbel in New York.
How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. You're Wendell?
Yes, I am.
Wendell, can you give me your last name?
Klein.
Wendell Klein. Tell me where you are, if you would.
Well, right now I'm back in the hotel. I'm in the hotel offices here, the front office.
You're in the... Okay, where were you when
I was standing right in front of the hotel. I'm the doorman there. And...
The hotel. Which hotel?
Marriott World Trade Center.
Right across from the World Trade Center.
It's actually right in between them.
Right in between the World Trade Center.
Yes.
Okay, so you were standing outside, and tell us what you saw and what you heard.
Well, what I heard first, an explosion. And I just figured that it was a plane passing by. Then all of a sudden, stuff just started falling, like bricks and paper and everything. And so I just kind of ran inside to get away from the falling debris and glass and so forth. Then... after everything stopped, because it was falling in the street and the cars were crashing into each other. And then when it kind of stopped, I heard a guy screaming. And when I looked over, there was this guy that was on fire. So I kind of ran over, and I tried to put the fire out on him. And he was screaming, and I just told him to roll, and he said he can't. And then another guy came over with his bag and kind of put the flames out on him. So. Right now, he's being taken care of. I just had everyone call the ambulance and stuff so it can help him out. He
caught fire as a result of the falling debris?
Yeah.
How much debris, can you give us an idea of how much came crashing to the ground?
It's just a lot. Bricks, a lot of bricks, a lot of glass. Enough to damage cars on the street, make cars swerve into each other, that kind of thing.
I hear alarms going off down there. What's happening?
That's our hotel alarm, and basically... I guess that went off automatically. They've evacuated everyone in the hotel. They evacuated all employees.
They have evacuated the hotel?
Yes.
Immediately?
Yes.
Are you hearing anything, Wendell, about what kind of a plane it was or how many were on board?
No.
All right. Mr. Klein, thank you very much, sir. I understand Teresa Renault is with us right now. Miss Renault, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
This is Bryant Gumbel. I'm down on 59th and 5th. Where are you?
I am in Chelsea, and we are at 8th and 16th. We are the tallest building in the area, and my window faces south, so it looks directly onto the World Trade Center. And I would say, approximately 10 minutes ago, there was a major explosion from probably, it looks like about the 80th floor. It looks like it's affected probably 4 to 8 floors. Major flames are coming out of the north side and also the east side of the building, yes. And it was very loud explosion followed by flames, and it looks like the building is still on fire on the inside.
Which building are we talking about? The one that's westernmost?
Let's see. Yes, sir.
Did you hear the explosion from your position?
Yes, we did. As a matter of fact, we heard it, and because I was just standing there pretty much looking out the window, I didn't see what caused it or if there was an impact.
So you have no idea right now?
Oh, there's another one. Another plane just hit. Oh, my God. Another plane has just hit. It hit another building. Flew right into the middle of it. Explosion. My God, it's right in the middle of the building.
This one into the east tower?
Yes. Right in the middle of the building. And right now, that was definitely looked like it was on purpose.
You saw a
yes,
plane?
Yes, I just saw a plane go into the building.
Why do you say that was definitely on purpose?
Because it just flew straight into it. Looks like it's about, I would say 15 floors lower than the first building, and there's now flames coming out of that building as well. They're both completely on fire.
Now, Teresa, hang on with us 1 second. We're going to re-rack the tape of when we were talking to you to see if we can tell.
Okay.
We can't see anything. We can't see a second plane in the picture. There we see the explosion.